all, and welcome back to Adventures with Ariel. Some of you may already know this, but way back in 2012, I got accepted into what is known as the Disney College Program, and as a result became a Disney cast member at Walt Disney World. Now, I could do a whole other video dedicated to the Disney College Program alone, but today, I just wanted to give y'all the skinny on what it's like to work for Disney in general. Keep watching to find out. For those of you new to the channel, I put out Disney and theme park related videos every single week. I do reviews, I do history, I give tips and tricks for navigating the parks. So if any of that sounds good to you, then please hit the subscribe button down below and also hit that little bell so you'll get notified every time I post a new video. All right, let's do this. So getting to work for Disney World was a dream come true for me. I know it sounds corny, but my mom can vouch for that. She has a vivid memory of me crying in the back seat of our minivan on the way back from our first Walt Disney World vacation. I remember not wanting to leave, and my mom remembers me clearly stating that I wanted to go back and live at Disney World one day. So fast forward to 2012, and that became a reality for me when I got my acceptance email for the Disney College Program. I was finally going to live at Disney World. And was it all peaches and cream like my 5-year-old self imagined? Almost. So once I got to Orlando, I was finally told what my role was. And for those of you who don't know, role is a term that is part of something called Disney lingo. I'll touch more upon Disney lingo later, but essentially your role is your job at Disney. During the interview process, you get to tell your interviewer what your top 3 preferences are regarding what kind of role you would like to have. This ranges from entertainment to attractions to food and beverage to hospitality, and sometimes you don't end up with the role you wanted. Now, I chose merchandise because I had had previous experience working with a register, and luckily I got that role. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed when I got my assignment and found out I was going to be working not at the parks, but at what was then known as Downtown Disney. I know it's called Disney Springs now, but for the sake of staying consistent with my experience, I'm just gonna refer to it as Downtown Disney in this video. Now, of course, Downtown Disney is still part of the Walt Disney World Resort, but when you tell people you worked for Disney, usually the first question that comes up is, oh my God, were you a character? Were you a princess? Wait, were you Ariel because of your name? Okay, I'm getting off topic. Let's get back to talking about what being a cast member is really like at Disney World. During your first days of training for your role, you must complete a day known as Traditions that takes place at Disney University. Yeah, that's what it's actually called. Disney University is located behind the Magic Kingdom. This is known as the Backstage area. Remember that Disney lingo I was telling y'all about? Well, that's something that's actually taught to us in Traditions, and we are meant to live by it. No room for slip-ups. This means that employee-only areas are backstage. If it's your lunch break, you don't proclaim that you're going to the break room for your lunch break. You say, I'm going backstage. And you never refer to yourself as an employee. You are a cast member. You are part of the show that Disney is putting on. Whether you're a bus driver, a waitress, a custodian, a lifeguard, or the big cheese himself, if you work for Disney, you're a cast member. As a cast member, you wear a costume, not a uniform. And your customers are not customers, they're guests. If you're working in an area where guests can see you, you're on stage. The lingo is an essential part of being a cast member, and you are expected to use it the entire time you're on stage. Let's go over some of the other strict rules we as cast members were expected to follow. For one, there's a very specific way that Disney expects you to point. This is called the Disney point. You may have noticed that cast members never point with just their index finger. We were told that it was essential to point with 2 fingers, like this, instead, because a single pointed finger can be interpreted as rude to several different cultures. Also, we weren't allowed to lean or sit while on stage, and frowning was very much frowned upon. See what I did there? You get tired of being on your feet after 8 hours, so it's natural that you'd wanna put your elbows on the table. But if you do, you will immediately be told to take them off by a manager. And you will often be reminded to smile. And if for some reason you're feeling down that day, you're not expected to show it, especially when you're talking to guests. There are also very strict guidelines for something called the Disney look. Since Disneyland's opening in 1955, Disney has become famous for the friendly, classic appearance of its cast members. As Disney puts it, Their look is a classic look that is clean, natural, polished, and professional, and avoids cutting-edge trends or extreme styles. This includes piercings that aren't one earring on each ear, long hair for men, unnatural colored nails or hair, and tattoos. If you do have tattoos, Disney requires you to cover them up with makeup. So even if I just chose to show up at work with blue nails, that would make for a very unhappy manager. There are a lot of things to remember when interacting with guests. Like I said before, we're expected to be part of Disney's show, and as a result, keep the magic alive. A child might come up to you and say, "We were in Magic Kingdom this morning and saw Mickey, but then we saw him again when we got to Animal Kingdom. What gives?" And then you might say something like, "Well, he flew over to Animal Kingdom on Dumbo." It's important to remember that when you're on stage, there's only one Mickey Mouse, and only one of every other character for that matter. You do not ruin the illusion, and that goes for talking about a friend that plays a character in the parks. If one of your friends plays Minnie Mouse, for example, you wouldn't actually say this in public. You would instead say, "I know someone who's friends with Minnie Mouse," when referring to that person. Also, it's pretty commonplace to refer to little girls as princesses when you're a cast member. As a kid, I was a big tomboy and I would have hated to be called a princess, so I was never really sure how every little girl felt about it. But obviously, a lot of little girls love it, and if they were dressed as a princess or were wearing a princess-themed shirt, I felt a lot better about it. I don't know, that was just my own weird thing, but I understand why Disney likes to do this. When you're a cast member at Disney, it's also very common to have celebrities walk into your place of work. While I worked there, my store saw Jennifer Goodwin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Holly Madison, just to name a few. Now, this can be very exciting, but as a cast member, it's essential that you treat them just like you would any other guest. This means that asking for a photo or autograph is grounds for immediate release from your job. I specifically remember a story going around about a cast member that basically started hyperventilating when Johnny Depp himself came up to her register. Needless to say, she was terminated shortly after this happened. It's so important that you never break character. If you're wearing an Adventureland costume, you do not set foot in Fantasyland. There are underground tunnels beneath the Magic Kingdom that are connected to every land, so that doesn't often happen. Also, if you're off your shift, you do not set foot on stage in your costume. Luckily for me, it was pretty easy to follow this rule because my costume consisted of a white button-up shirt, black pants, and an adorable rainbow apron decked out in Mickey's. So all I had to do was take off my apron and boom, I no longer looked like a cast member. The costumes can cause a lot of stress for cast members though. Some costumes look a lot better than others, and people will definitely get jealous over each other's costumes. Some costumes are very outdated and haven't been updated in 20 plus years. Like this Disney Quest costume. I know they recently shut it down, but it stayed the same from its opening in 1998 all the way up to its closing in 2017. I mean, come on, you can't get much more 90s than this. Also, some of the costumes felt very unpleasant in the Florida heat. My costume had that long sleeve button down, so I definitely fell victim to the Florida heat, but a lot of people had it way worse than me, especially you characters. Man, I feel for y'all. I had 3 different sets of the same costume, and there was a backstage area where we would go to retrieve these costumes. You could pick them up or turn them in, and they would have them cleaned and hung up again. One of the coolest things about working for Disney is getting to see the secret backstage areas, and this includes none other but the famous underground tunnels beneath the Magic Kingdom. Some would argue that this ruined the magic for them, and I can totally understand that, but for me, it was an inside look at something that most people never get the chance to see. The first time you're taken down there is during the traditions class I mentioned earlier, and it's a little bizarre. I remember one of the first things I saw was Merida walking around in a t-shirt with her hair still on, and after that I saw a group of Disney princesses walking around carrying their handbags. Yeah, that was pretty strange to see. And obviously, taking photos of all these backstage areas is prohibited. Another huge perk is getting free admission to the parks. That's right, as long as you work for the Mouse, you get unlimited access to Disney World and incredible discounts on top of that. Seriously, if you want to stay in one of the resorts and you're a cast member, that's 50% off, and then 40% off for friends and family. So I know I didn't get to cover everything, but I hope I gave y'all a good idea of what it's like to work for Disney World. My experience working there certainly had its ups and downs, but I most definitely do not have any regrets. It was overall a fairly positive experience. I mean, I got to stitch the names on the back of those famous Mickey ears, spend all of my free time in the parks, and create magical experiences for guests who are excited to be at Disney World. A lot of the rules that Disney enforces are really strict, but I believe they are primarily responsible for how successful the company is. Top-notch guest service is what keeps people coming back. Time for the question of the day. Have you worked for Disney? And if not, do you know someone who has? Was it a good experience? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video interesting, I encourage you to give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and hit that little bell icon so you'll get notified every time I post a new video, which is every single week. Alright y'all, thank you so much for watching, and as the cast members say, have a magical day.